Since 1972, video game consoles have been redefining what home entertainment could be, although at times more of a vision than a tangible product, with each new generation of consoles bringing progressively more powerful hardware. With transistors increasing pretty much in line with Moore's law, the obvious, perceivable difference to the everyday consumer comes in the form of bigger, more complex and infinitely better looking games. Every generation has those games that really push the latest killer consoles to their limits, draining every last ounce of performance from these machines. But with the ever-shifting boundaries of what exactly dictates cutting edge, sometimes it's nostalgia and not genuine quality that defines the legacy of a game. In this series, I take a critical look at these games that define childhoods, look back at the reception of the time, talk about personal experiences, and ask the question, with as little bias as possible, how good was it? So, the festive period is nothing but a distant memory, and the harsh reality of life hits hardest in the early months of the year. But not to worry, kids, the Ranker is back with another How Good Was It to brighten those dark nights. And this time, uncovering the adventures of Batman and Robin. Hyperbole aside, this is a game I have never played, a first for this series, and I love discovering new games. Although, I don't want to misrepresent this title. It's not exactly a hidden gem. The Adventures of Batman and Robin has been well covered over the years, and has been heralded as an excellent 16-bit experience. This is a good change for me, as I usually have to put a lot of effort into distancing myself from my own nostalgic bias. But there will be none of that this time, as I have no nostalgia to curb. This is the hardest game I've covered to research, more specifically the release dates, regions and name changes. The information on the internet is conflicting. Wikipedia has the US release date as December 1994. Other sites have it as November of the same year, and many sources just cite the release as circa 1994. It's not a massive deal, but I like my videos to be as accurate as possible, and I even scoured PDFs of American magazines from the time, still being unable to nail down a specific release date. This even became a problem when finding the regional releases, and although the wiki only has the game as a US release, while trying to procure a copy from eBay, I did find PAL versions, but from the best I can tell, they are European copies, and this version was never released in the UK. As I said, none of this really matters, but while down this rabbit hole, it did lead me to think how easily even basic information can be lost to time. And if anyone has information to clear this up with proof, send me an email and I will add clarifications in the description with an accreditation. Regardless, what we do know is The Adventures of Batman and Robin was published and developed in-house by Konami, and the game was made as a tie-in for the very popular Batman the Animated Series, which was later retitled The Adventures of Batman and Robin. Now you will have to excuse my ignorance, as I have a very surface level understanding of the Batman lore. I love the movies. Yes, even Batman and Robin. For the memes, of course. And I did watch some of the original run of the animated series at the time, but I know how beloved this character is, and fandoms can be somewhat protective, as they should be, so I'm setting my stall out early doors. If you are entrenched in the Batman IP, your understanding of the lore will be on a whole different level to mine. That being said, the late 80s to the mid 90s saw a massive boost in popularity for the Caped Crusader. While those who read the comic books will argue Batman has been popular since his introduction to Detective Comics 27 in May of 1939, the truth is, in the normie zeitgeist, due to the campy outings of Adam West in the 60s TV series, up to 1989, Batman was seen as somewhat of a joke, a meme before the internet if you will. I personally love the series. I have memories of watching it with my granddad, but it was with the release of Tim Burton's gothic silver screen adaptation Batman in 1989, and its divisive sequel, Batman Returns, that revived the franchise and turned the character into a pop culture legend. This would eventually lead to the incredibly well written and animated Fox series. The inspiration for this game. The point of telling you this is to put those of you who weren't there in the shoes of us that were. Batman was riding the crest of a wave, and this was the perfect time for a high quality tie-in video game. Fresh off the back of recently reviewing 007 Nightfire, a game with multiple builds on multiple platforms, all under the same title, I met with a similar situation here. The Adventures of Batman and Robin was released on 4 platforms with 3 developers, all with different builds. Up to now, I have been specifically talking about the Super Nintendo version, but I like to go for completion, so we are briefly going to explore the other releases as I played them all. Developed by Clockwork Tortoise, published by Sega, and released the following year, the Megadrive version is a completely different game. While the SNES build would be best described as a platformer, the Megadrive release is the definition of a side-scrolling beat-em-up. In a similar mould to Streets of Rage and Gunstar Heroes, but far more chaotic, displaying the game over message in the top corner in one player, telling you there is available credits, almost daring a second player to join the action. This was the bread and butter of any arcade beat-em-up of the time. It's the most punishing version, throwing everything including the kitchen sink at the player, and is fully representative of how difficulty was implemented in the 4th generation, encouraging the player to replay the whole game to get to that one point you just can't beat. The game has a completely different storyline to its SNES counterpart, with Batman being tasked with stopping Mr. Freeze from throwing Gotham into an ice age and rounding up the escapee members of the Rogues Gallery. And this was well before Batman and Robin hit the cinemas. The Megadrive version uses all the tricks the developer could muster, drawing every ounce of graphical performance from the console. Clockwork Tortoise used advanced programming techniques, such as vertical interrupts to simulate 3D scrolling geometry, complex mathematical equations to give particular objects the appearance of dynamic sprite scaling, and manipulating scroll registers to give large sprites the illusion of rotating objects. Very reminiscent of the Super Nintendo's Developer Mode 7. Due to the number of graphical tricks used, this game is commonly cited as the best looking game on the Megadrive, and for a more thorough breakdown of how these techniques were achieved, I highly recommend game developer John Burton's video on the subject, linked to his channel in the description. Overall, it's a fun game, if not a little punishing, and it's when taking advantage of the 2-player co-op mode that the game is at its best. This is an experience made much better and easier when playing with a friend, but not your missus, never your missus. Moving on to the second title made by Clockwork Tortoise, Batman and Robin on the Mega CD, and it was my least favourite port. I ventured into the world of Mega CD collecting last year, a system I've wanted since the 90s, and while I don't mind spending a pretty penny on retro games, there is definitely limits, and this is the limit. The good news is, I get to finally make use of my Mega CD in a video. This is a console I successfully repaired after working on it for 100 hours plus, probing every pin of the ASIC with an oscilloscope to troubleshoot it, removing every IC, rebuilding the motherboard, and eventually tracking down a faulty resistor array in the edge connector. So, after all that, it's time to come out of storage, and this is your time to shine, little buddy. Why do you hate me? It's fine, I will perform open heart surgery on you again later. For now, we have backups, because I'm an unhinged lunatic who is compelled to capture any bit of nostalgia from my youth. This really is a strange game. It's been described as Batmobile the game, and it's definitely an apt observation. The gameplay is purely based around the vehicle sections, travelling from point A to point B, and interspliced with a commonly overused aspect of the Mega CD, full motion video. This is intriguing though. The FMVs are in the same style of the animated series and is commonly referred to as the lost episodes due to the animations only existing in this game. The FMVs are heavily bit crushed and run within the 64 on-screen colour limitations of the Megadrive, but they are very impressive and fully in line with the animation quality of its TV counterpart. The graphics are very nice, making use of arcade sprite scaling made possible by the Mega CD. But considering this was a £200 to £300 add-on at the time, and given the Megadrive version is a much better game, I can't recommend this one. That brings us to the final port, and it's one of my favourite handhelds for my younger years, the Sega Game Gear. This game feels more of an afterthought. I give Game Gear games a certain amount of leeway, taking into consideration the small miracles the handheld was performing. But this doesn't mean the Game Gear games can't be excellent. Games like Castle of Illusion, Ninja Gaiden and Sonic the Hedgehog had given me hours of entertainment back in the day due to superb gameplay. However, The Adventures of Batman and Robin is not on that level. Programmed by the now defunct Hungarian developer Novatrade, the game was overly difficult and suffers from the small real estate on the Game Gear screen. The controls are clunky. The gameplay is ill thought out, although I did enjoy the soundtrack of this version. I will briefly mention there was a Game Boy game called Batman, the animated series. But I have to draw a line somewhere, and that line is with the game having a different name, box art, and theming. Honestly, I could have made a separate video for the Megadrive, SNES and Mega CD versions, with them being very different games. But with so many games to possibly make retrospectives on, I decided to pick my favourite and review that port, and for me, that is the SNES version. It has the best visuals and most enjoyable gameplay, making it the superior game. Although I will intersperse gameplay and make points about the different versions where applicable. I always like to take you on a trip in my time machine I currently store in my shed to get some context for the games we are playing, using the reviews of the time. And this transition will never be more relevant. So, to the magazines. To mix things up, to start us off, let's get the less biased perspective and take a sneaky look, this time at multi-platform UK magazine, Computer and Video Games, issue 156, published in November of 1994. This is a 2-page review, written by game reviewer Gary Lord. Gary goes into the mechanics of the game, summarising his thought by praising the soundtrack and mentioning the faithful manner that Konami translated the animated series into video game form. Not all is positive though, with Gary feeling more diverse gameplay would have improved the title. The CVG review includes a second opinion from Mark Patterson, garnishing the title with even more praise. Overall, CVG gives the game 91 out of 100, with the highest marks going to the graphics and sound. Over at Official Nintendo magazine, we get a far more in-depth review, detailing all aspects of the 5 stages, with this reading more like an advertisement rather than a review. Paul Davis loved the game, finding nothing to criticise, while giving the sound and appearance special praise. ONN gives a score of 92% and its seal of quality. Very funny. Although, I would take this review with a pinch of salt, considering the staff section gives special thanks to Howard Lincoln, you know, the then president of Nintendo of America, Howard Lincoln. To round the magazines off, I have a bonus review from the Megadrive version. This isn't particularly relevant to the retrospective. I just thought it would be interesting to have a look at how this port was received, and I happen to have a very tatty review copy of Sega Power to hand. Even though you would expect Sega Power to be somewhat biased, it's a very fair review, given a score of 79%. Reading this review after playing the game gives me confirmation on my opinion, with the reviewer, Danny, mentioning many times it's a game made much better when playing with a friend. With the context given, we just need to confirm how I'm playing the game for this playthrough. I'm not having much luck recently with my retro consoles. I got my NTSC North American SNES out for this one, as it's fully modified with D-Jitter, Super CIC and the RGB mods. However, just like the Mega CD, problems arose when powering it up, and it seems to have developed a very irritating buzzing sound. So I'll add that to the fix list, and for now, I'll be using my stock NTSC Super Famicom. The image isn't as sharp and the colours are not as bright, but it's good enough, and looks miles better to how we played the games back in the day. Due to the regional release, getting a copy of this game is difficult and very expensive in the UK, so I'm using the FX Pack Pro this time round, and as usual, I'm upscaling the game with the RetroTink 5X and capturing the action in 4K. Mike Chi, please restock the RetroTink 4K ASAP and then send me one for free. Cheers mate. So, with our utility belts fully stocked, with all the preamble we're ever going to need, don your capes and grab the shark repellent as we grapple our way into the animated world of the adventures of Batman and Robin. The first thing of note from the very first screen of the game is the excellent soundtrack the game uses. We are hit with a truly superb rendition of the Batman theme, and this is not unusual for the SNES. The argument between the SNES and Nintendo fanboys over which 90s console was better is a war with no end. But one fact that is not up for debate is the sound architecture of the SNES was miles ahead of the Megadrive. Be aware, this comes from a man whose personal favourite console is the Megadrive. But I can't rebut fact. And the fact of the matter is, SNES games across the board just sounded better. The SNES used an 8-bit Sony sound chip with the SDSP IC acting as a dedicated 16-bit CPU, giving the games a very unique sound. This is used to great effect throughout this game, although the Mega Drive version has its own very unique soundtrack. Jasper Kidd, the sound designer for that version, honed his skills on the Mega Drive. Mega Drive? Mega Drive, taking advantage of the console's gritty sound. Both soundtracks were good, but the SNES port was the better of the two. While talking about the differences between the ports, the intros of the two are very different. While the SNES version is just a select screen, the Mega Drive port has a very well animated intro, depicted Batman and the Boy Wonder keeping watch over Gotham, and if a button isn't pressed, the game goes into the sequence we saw earlier, giving exposition regarding the escape of Batman's greatest foes from Arkham Asylum. It really is impressive and worth noting, because this is something you would expect to see on the SNES but be absent on the Mega Drive. Not the other way round. Straight off the bat we are given 3 choices: start game, options, and what I want to talk about, the password system. Passwords were a common aspect of games around this time. Games in the previous generation typically were shorter in length, usually completable in a single play session. But when it came to the 4th generation, an increase in storage space and advanced hardware led to longer games overall. Some games had built-in saves. For example, The Legend of Zelda and Sonic 3 had an on-cart saving solution. This wasn't ideal though. It was expensive. Saves were non-transferable, and with the most common technique implemented being SRAM with a cell battery, it wasn't a matter of if, but when, the saves would be lost to time due to a dead battery. The password system was a happy middle ground until the 5th generation would bring with it the use of memory cards, and passwords made the game far more digestible. The difficulty is also linked to the system, with the only difference between the normal and hard setting being the absence of the password system. We get the option to mess around with the controls, a nice feature not all games had, and one of my most missed aspects of old games, the sound test. Onto the action, and we see how this game is going to give us exposition. The story is delivered through animated transitions, showing conversations between the characters. Alfred informs us there is a strange broadcast airing. He puts it on the monitor. And it's Harley Quinn, introducing us to the Joker channel, with the Joker making veiled threats, challenging Batman to go to the amusement park. Bruce knows it's a trap, but what is a vigilante bat to do? Here we are presented with an interesting aspect of the game, the equipment screen, allowing us to pick the gadgets we take into the level. It's a strange mechanic and feels like an idea that wasn't fully implemented. There is no penalty for picking all the items in the second section, with the third section having level-specific items. This is a nice idea, but ends up being very unnecessary. Alfred informs us if we need any special items, and with no downside to pressing the start button, drawing the level and returning to the Batcave to change your selection. It's a mechanic that sticks out like a sore thumb. We're thrown into the first of 5 levels, Amused to Death, and we instantly see the jaw-dropping visuals the game is going to treat us to. The crazy thing is, as nice as this looks, it's not even close to the best looking level. The level designers use the standard effect of parallax scrolling to give the scene depth, but alternating the distance of the buildings on the first background layer makes the effect look all the more effective. The scrolling is smooth as butter, and the game maintains a high frame rate throughout most of the game, only dipping when visuals get overly taxing, a talking point we will revisit later. Once getting through the very short first section, we are greeted by Harley Quinn. She welcomes us to the Joker's funhouse, and then runs inside with Batman giving chase. I mean, who wouldn't chase Harley Quinn, am I right? Batman and Robin, as a game, has a very good control system. Everything is very responsive, for now, and the gameplay is very intuitive. It's nothing complicated. Batman can jump, punch, use a gadget, or perform a dash roll move. Very useful when in a bind. Amused to Death is an easy affair, best described as a tutorial level. It requires you to learn most of the basic moves to get through, such as wall kicks, and getting the hang of the grapple. The grapple can be tricky, and I have criticism for it later in the game, but with a little practice, you'll be giving Spider-Man a run for his money in no time. Everything is very easy going, that is until we meet the Joker. After a quick battle with a huge tin soldier, we come face to face with a cackling criminal. He tells us he has prepared some particularly nasty surprises for us. And oh boy, for once he isn't joking. We chase him to the roller coaster, and after a short dramatic speech, Harley sends the Joker on his way, and Batman follows in a second roller coaster car. I must say, the thematics and theme of the game is truly remarkable. Konami would have been under heavy scrutinisation, with the Source animated series being very popular, but they absolutely nailed the feel and animation of the series. Everything is so well detailed, and even the characters behave like their TV counterparts. I could genuinely imagine Mark Hamill voicing the Joker, for instance, and rest in peace Kevin Conroy, a very talented voice actor and a great Batman. I don't want to gush over this too much, as I will be pointing out the design throughout this retrospective, but even down to using the same style title screens at the beginning of the levels, and using the font I can only describe as Art Deco. Yeah, that's the one. Anyway, back to the action, and the final stage of the first level is a shock to the difficulty system. This is not easy. It's fast, relentless, and the consistently changing styles makes it hard to learn the attack patterns, making replaying the stage almost a requirement, a true baptism of fire. After dodging the parachuting bombs and ducking these circular star ball things. Yeah, these things. I didn't even realise they were part of the level until they gave me a thorough battering. The game pulls out some superb Mode 7 trickery to switch the perspective and giving the Joker another opportunity to pepper us with the bombs. And then we engage the Madman face to face, Bat versus Clown, after getting another thorough battering from these circular star ball things. Oh, you're pushing it. The boss fight purely comes down to learning the attack pattern of the Joker and being patient. All the boss fights suffer from this to some degree, and it's a shame, because I do love a challenging boss fight. Wouldn't you know it, the Joker escapes by jumping off the side of the roller coaster. Wait, what? We get a very Metal Slug stage cleared message, and that is the end of the first stage. As with anything, level quality is subjective, but I think Amused to Death does an awful lot right, starting slow, finishing hard, with all the mechanics conveyed to the player through natural progression. Excellent stuff, and with that, we move on to No Green Peace. So, returning to the Batcave, Bruce and Alfred have another expositionary tete-a-tete. Seriously, Alfred, you're British. Where's the tea and crumpets? Show some English etiquette for God's sake, man. These trees have been popping up in great number in Gotham Forest, giving Batman his next lead. Trees? Strange plant life? I'm no Bat fanatic, but even I know what's causing this. The Penguin, right? Oh. As I said earlier, the equipment screen is pointless. This would be an occasion when the game could allow the player to work out the spray gun would be required, but the item is auto-selected, leaving no room for ambiguity. And while on the subject of the spray gun, I don't understand the damage system on this level. So this could be down to my ignorance of the character. But has Poison Ivy put these grunts in a trance? I know she entrances Batman and Robin in the 1997 movie, and her abilities do list the powers of charm, but does that include women? This is unlike later in the game. With the Scarecrow, the game doesn't make it clear, so not being able to take down the enemies in this level, only being able to temporarily subdue them with the spray can, seems a little odd. Listen, I'm a champion of equality, so if the male baddies get this treatment, then so should the women.
Wait, I've got an idea.
I'm only joking around, of course. I've been rewatching Austin Powers and I just wanted to use a clip from the movies, and it really doesn't make a difference. My point is, there should be a line of dialogue explaining this in the Batcave screen. This would have made the in-game storytelling much better. I absolutely love the music on this level. I couldn't quite put my finger on why, and then it hit me. Have a listen to this and see if you recognise what this is similar to. Did you get it? For me, it's very reminiscent of this. Final Fantasy VI is a personal favourite of mine, with the soundtrack, in my opinion, being one of the best in the series. The example isn't like for like, but the style definitely wouldn't have been out of place in that excellent OST. Total sidetrack over, back to the level. No Green Peace is okay. Not my favourite, but does have some good points. For all the good-natured banter I was giving the knockout mechanic, I actually like it. It makes for an interesting change in gameplay, making us think differently than just bashing the punch button, and these giant worms look great. With Mode 7, even when using it in a restrained way, there is just something about it that has such a unique appearance. The Megadrive could get a similar effect by interrupting the scroll registers, but it just wasn't the same. Not all is above reproach here though. We have to use the clunky grapple gun to bridge gaps, making swinging somewhat of a crapshoot. It's a problem that was further emphasised later in the game, but swinging over instant death pits can make for a frustrating experience. As I mentioned in the Sonic Retrospective, I am not a fan of instant death pits. They have always bothered me, and I will always point out how counterintuitive they are to fun gameplay. The game must know my hate for this, as they have thrown in falling platforms over said instant death pits for shits and giggles, just to make sure my piss is thoroughly boiled. I'm overplaying it. The pits aren't a massive part of this level, and when we do eventually navigate them, it's smooth sailing to the boss. Trapdoors? Fuck. It's okay, the fuckery is over, and it's time to take down Poison Ivy. We don't fight her directly. She sends her giant fly-trap vine-armed plant type thing after us. And this further plays into the fact that Poison Ivy doesn't like to fight, rather sending in others to do her dirty work. Now this is a very tricky fight, and I'm here for it. The plant is only vulnerable when its mouth is open, and this is the archetypal sectioned boss fight, with the plant going through a 3-stage pattern, and with patience being rewarded. This is stage 1, simple to evade by crouching, and after causing damage 3 times, the boss goes into stage 2 and 3, requiring dodging projectiles and retreating to the corner to avoid the vine whip. Although sounding easy, concentration is needed, because losing your rhythm is a quick way to the Batgrave. Poison Ivy occasionally jumps out to fire projectiles from the safety of cover of her giant plant pet, but when it falls, Poison Ivy instantly gives up and stage 2 is cleared. Finally, Robin shows up. A little late for a game titled Batman and Robin, don't you think? The title made far more sense in the Megadrive iteration, with Robin being selectable from the offset. But here, this is only one of the 2 appearances of the Boy Wonder. It's a rare criticism that the official Nintendo magazine review levelled at the game, stating Robin makes little more than a cameo appearance, and that is definitely accurate. I did some reading about this while researching, and if you have been thinking, why is this called The Adventures of Batman and Robin, when Robin is missing and the source material is titled Batman the Animated Series, then your senses are sharp, because there is a reason behind this. The TV show started life as Batman the Animated Series, but when Fox ordered the 2nd season, they switched the name to The Adventures of Batman and Robin, and changed the animation style to better fit the age demographic, children, with Robin playing a more prominent role. It obviously takes time to make a game of this quality, with it going through most of its development before the series made the switch. This is why the Megadrive version went in a different direction, allowing the player to select Robin as a playable character, being released a year after the SNES version. The history lesson is now over, but I thought it's worth mentioning, as this stood out to me, and I'm sure others had noticed the disparity, but now you know, and you can finally sleep well. Alfred pops up to remind us, just in case there's a random, totally non-scripted power outage. We better take our flashlight. Now, I'm a stubborn old bastard. I won't do anything someone or something is ordering me to do. So in an act of defiance, I didn't select the flashlight, just to spite Alfred. Oh, what a surprise. A power outage. And invisible bombs. Great. Now I have to go back to the Batcave, towel between my legs, to get the ruddy flashlight. Alfred, where's the fucking crumpets? It's on to the 3rd stage. This time, armed with the elusive flashlight and Robin in tow, mainly for expositional purposes. We need to get to the bottom of what's going on. We find our first captured member of staff, and... No, Batman, that is not how we rescue people. I said release the members of staff, not release the staff's members. We find out a bird-like thing is robbing the gallery. And you know what that means? Finally, Catwoman, right? God damn it. Foul play is more about patience rather than action. It's one of those maze-type stages where the game knows where it wants you to go, but interpreting the messages can be tricky. We make our way down to the security office, and after rescuing the security staff, the power is restored and Robin appears after saving the curator. He gives us the master key and the whole building is now open for exploration. Tasked with rescuing the other members of staff, it's easier just to systematically go into every door, as there are goodies to be found. The goons on this level really are no problem, as long as you stay alert to the machine gun guys. Avoiding damage is not hard. Foul play does feature one of my most detested game tropes, regenerating enemies. Although this does play into this style of maze type level, punishing going in the wrong direction with more fighting. As for the visuals, again, Konami absolutely nails the aesthetic of nighttime in a high-end gallery, with the game using parallax scrolling to fantastic effect, having a foreground layer of vase silhouettes and a slower moving background layer, giving this level a beautiful effect. I'm no expert, so take this with a pinch of salt, but from the best I can tell, the game is making use of the Super Nintendo's Developer Mode 3 to attain this effect. When talking about the SNES, usually Mode 7 gets all the plaudits, but there are 6 other modes, including 2 pseudo modes, and they all have their place. Mode 3 is usually used for cutscenes. It allows for 2 layers, one consisting of 256 colours, and a second using 16 colours per tile. The reason I think this is being used here is because not only is the background layer of higher image quality, there is also a light and a dark iteration for when the lights are on and off. This is perfect for Mode 3, and I won't continue to get this technical, because I realise nerd specs are not everyone's cup of tea, but the SNES really was capable of some stunning graphics when the developers used the modes to their fullest. So, after saving the staff and obtaining the door code, it's onto the second floor to go face to beak with the penguin. What a coward, leaving his vulture to take a beating. Birdo manipulation will not be tolerated. This fat, beak-nosed bellend is getting a beatdown. The penguin is a disappointing boss fight. He only has 3 moves, easily circumvented by knowing when to stay clear and when to keep close. He does have a helicopter backing him up, but with it not dealing a lot of damage, the penguin is a short fight, and we beat his ass. This is for the Birdo. We are halfway through now, and from here on out, the game comes hard and fast. Next up is the towel of the cat. Belle, look, cat representation. Damn, Belle, you're getting mean. How about it, please? Okay, there you go. Better? Seriously, I'm stopping you from watching Garfield. Batman is going to check over the city to make sure nothing is going down. And wouldn't you know it, Catwoman is performing acrobatics in the background, and that is never a good thing. We catch up with her on the elevator, and as usual, she doesn't take Batman's Boy Scout attitude towards crime very well. So, it's time to do battle. This can be a tricky fight. Catwoman is agile, she's sporting a whip, and has an instant counter move when knocked down. I found jump kicking the best route to beating her, but she is unpredictable, and taking damage is a given. Once beaten, she takes a flying jump off the building, with Batman following. I mean, why wouldn't you? This was a section I failed a few times, because once she escapes, you have a limited amount of time to grapple a flagpole before Batman becomes Sidewalk Bat Pizza, and this grapple will be the death of me, literally. Then, it's on to my favourite set piece in the game, chasing Catwoman on the building's roofs, and it's glorious. Honestly, this is so good. I played this section again so I could see it for a second time. With the city skyline, parallax scrolling, and searchlights scouring the building tops, it's just a chef's kiss of a set piece of the game design. It's actually a nice nod to the animated series, with it being a very faithful adaptation of the very first scene in the very first episode. After chasing the feline felon down the fire escape, we have a second face-off, and this time I got a far better rhythm. Jump kick her into the corner, jump back so she doesn't counter, and then switch to a forward kick and repeat. The cat is beaten, the level is over, but having her attack pattern down will help later, and for now, it's on to Trouble in Transit. When showing you the review from Computer and Video Games, you will remember me telling you they criticised the game for a lack of diverse gameplay. But it's a statement I couldn't disagree with more. Up to now the game has been immensely varied. Given all the levels have been side-scrollers, so on a surface level you could come to this conclusion. But when you really dig into the mechanics, considering there is still 4 levels left, every level has been distinctly different, and the next level completely changes the formula up to now. Trouble in Transit is a top-down view driving level. Two-Face has robbed the Gotham City bank, and we have to chase him down in the Batmobile. Now, I'm not going to lie, the visuals on this stage are not groundbreaking, and certainly not on the level of the rest of the game. But it's when you get to the first turn that you see the tricks Trouble in Transit has up its sleeve. It's obvious the developers were banking on the rotating ability of the DSP-1 chip, similar to how Mario Kart and Pilot Wings rotates the play area. This is my least favourite level though up to now, not because it's necessarily bad, but because it bores me. The Batmobile controls horribly, with twitchy, unintuitive handling, and where games with a driving level using a timer usually allows leeway, here it's tight down to the fraction of a second. A great comparison, and the game that came to mind when playing this level, was the Amiga adaptation of the 1989 Batman film. It also has a timed driving section in the Batmobile, albeit with a different perspective, and while not easy, the timer is nowhere near as tight as this game. Just look at this, the Amiga is just awesome. It took quite a few tries, usually missing the time by seconds, but I did eventually make it. And how much time did I have left? Yep, 35 milliseconds. Admittedly, this is subjective, coming down to individual skill, and I'm not the most skilled gamer, but I am at least average, and this was a challenge for me. The second section starts straight away, requiring you to keep an eye on the turn signs, making the turn and shooting the bad guys. This, mixed with the smooth rotation, can become hypnotic and make concentrating a problem. It's all good though. Once at the boss, the timer goes away and we need to shoot down Two-Face's car. This section reminds me of a game I used to play back in the day, on the Master System, called Chase HQ, and it was a game I loved. This isn't as good, but I do enjoy the gameplay. Two-Face is a tough bastard, and it took a bit of time, but we eventually took him out, and I can't say I'm going to miss this one. Oh yeah, the next level is Perchance to Scream, and you know what that title screen means. It's time to round up the Scarecrow. The Scarecrow is one of my favourite adversaries in the Batman Rogues Gallery. I love the psychological aspect of his evil deeds. I believe your brain has the ability to punish you on a whole different level to which any physical pain ever could. So I find this a very intriguing spin on the supervillain. So Scarecrow, even with my limited Batman knowledge, I know his favoured way of breaking down the mental stability of his victims is through the use of gas. That means we get to pick a new item, the gas mask. Scarecrow has an axe to grind with the Gotham State University, so that's our next stop. Now this is an interesting setup, and what I was alluding to earlier. The game fully explains why you have to use the knockout spray. The slow-moving men are civilians, under the control of the gas, but if you don't deal with them, they will hold your arms back for the goons to pummel you. Again, a level with very different gameplay aspects, keeping the game from getting monotonous. This level is another good example of how the Super Nintendo's graphical abilities was used to great effect. I believe this time making use of Mode 2, using the offset per layer mechanic to give this nice effect of the gas level rising and falling. We go up the stairs to the roof, and it's time to hunt down the Scarecrow's blimp, with the large, impressive sprite floating by in the background. Luckily, Robin is here to make his second and final cameo appearance, flying in on the Batwing and giving Batman a lift. We get atop the blimp and come to the edge with only one option. Oh, the fucking grapple. Honestly, I mentioned it earlier, but I don't know if I was clear enough. If I had to pick one aspect I hated about this game, hands down it would be the grapple. It's not a terrible mechanic when only swinging across a gap, but this is a gross implementation of it. The route needed to be taken involves jumping off the edge of the blimp, turning in midair and shooting the grapple, and then swinging, then grappling until you get to the window. The idea in itself is fine, but it's with the terrible, unpredictable nature of the grapple that makes me want to just smash my head against a wall, because both are equally as fun. The grapple doesn't always dispatch when you first push the button, and if you don't get the shot off as soon as you let go, Batman will end up near the bottom of the screen, making it impossible to shoot again without falling to your death. It's madness, and I hate it. Again, I'm not sure if I'm just not very good at it, and you might be thinking, what are you talking about? It's not hard at all, but I call it as I see it, and it is what it is. The section isn't impossible though. Eventually we make it through the window and onto the captain's deck of the blimp, quickly making our way to the showdown with the Scarecrow. This fight is the worst example of easy boss fights when the pattern is learnt. I haven't mentioned it yet, but the Batarang is somewhat overpowered when it comes to some of the bosses. Hitting them with the Batarang stuns the enemy, and with the bosses, like the Scarecrow who predictably jump to the other side when hit, leaving them open to stun locking, making the fight straightforward. One final member of the supervillains to take down, and with a name like Riddle Me This, we all know what's up next. A level full of illusions, tricks, and riddles. Yep, it's the Riddler. Fantastic. We have a very Tron-inspired setup, with the Riddler sending the game to Police Commissioner Gordon, with him and his daughter, Barbara, being pulled into the game. I know Barbara is Batwoman in the comics, but there is no mention of that here. Just something that stuck out to me as a little odd. Now, I like a good riddle. I have an autistic logical mindset, perfect for solving riddles. But games rarely execute this well, and The Adventures of Batman and Robin is no exception. This is a level purely based in a maze, you know, one of those nasty bastard mazes, where when you change direction, the game loads the next identical section from the same perspective. This is my least favourite form of maze in a video game. Although, it's not like I have a favourite, because it's a ruddy maze. It does show some mercy, giving us a map in the top corner, but when you throw in secret destroyable walls, it turns into a nightmare. It reminds me greatly of the repeating sections found in Final Fantasy VII. For example, the desert surrounding Coral Prison, and the snowfields. Obviously not exactly the same, but the same maddening effect. It's the first time the game leaves the player to use the old noggin and work out what gadgets are needed. I worked it out, as I knew this was the last proper level due to reading the magazine article, and I haven't yet used the X-ray goggles, so I added them as they seem perfect for seeing through illusions. It worked out, because this is how I found the fake walls, and Alfred does give a clue, but it was by luck for me rather than design, And with no internet guides back in 1994, I imagine this was a nightmare level back then, and I bet the Nintendo helpline got more than a few calls about this level. As I suspected, the riddles are not good, with this being the first. It's not that it doesn't make sense, it just isn't a riddle. It's not even a puzzle. I got this one first time, I'm not showing off, it's just too easy. And it's a shame, because solving a well-structured riddle can be very rewarding. But this just makes me feel nothing. I got the second riddle first time, purely because I've been a musician since a young age. And when I saw it, the C key instantly stuck out to me, just because it's the note, with no sharps or flats in the C major key signature, a well-known theory fact to musicians who know their scales. However, if it was structured like this, choose a key, A key, B key, or C key, my first pick would have 100% been A key, because the game asks you to pick A key. This is a terrible riddle, and more of a music theory test question that someone without a music background would have no chance of knowing. Then, we get to the final riddle, coincidentally the best riddle up to now, but I was stumped. I have billions of eyes, yet I live in the darkness. I have millions of ears, yet only 4 lobes. I have no muscles, yet I rule 2 hemispheres. What am I? Did you get it? I didn't, and I'm slightly ashamed, but I looked this one up, as I had no interest in playing the level again. It's the human brain, selected by picking the letters HB. Don't get me wrong, it's far from perfect. Riddles require literal wording while remaining as vague as possible and staying relevant. This does a good job, but it's a little too vague. Classing the optic nerves as billions of eyes is just a little too meta for my liking. As I said, it's not the best riddle, and it gets a ranker score of 7 out of 10. Yes, we rank everything around here, especially riddles. To be completely candid, after beating the Minotaur boss, I was ready for the end of this level. As usual, the visuals have been fantastic, nailing the inside of virtual world aesthetic. But I hate maze-style gameplay. And at least it's over. Oh. Yep, the old bait and switch. That was the easy part of the level, and the rest of it is full of all sorts of arse buggery. I'm not even going to talk about the graphical magic the game pulls off in this section, because I hated it, and I'm not praising it purely out of pettiness. I will demonstrate my pain in the only way I know how, with a montage. Roll the tape.
The day is approaching to give it your best, and you've got to reach your prime. That's when you need to put yourself to the test and show us the passage of time. We're gonna need a montage. A sports training montage. Show a lot of things happening at once. Remind everyone of what's going on. And with every shot, show a little improvement. To show it all would take too long. That's called a montage. Even Rocky had a montage. In any sport, if you want to go from just a beginner to a pro, you need a montage. A simple little montage. Always fade out in a montage. If you fade out, it seems like more time has passed in a montage.
This was a rough time, and the graphical fidelity came at a cost, the frame rate, and it's very erratic. These sorts of levels require, sometimes, frame-perfect accuracy, and dipped frames would pop up at the worst possible times, leading to a death on many occasions. This stage is about learning the individual sections, eventually dying, and then coming back for another try. This just wasn't fun, and the worst part is, I didn't even get to slap the Riddler, knocking that stupid hat off his stupid head for putting me through this. Well, at least it's over, and with one level to go, nothing can be as bad as Riddle Me This. Uh-oh, that's not good. The Gauntlet is a title screen I never want to see. It's shorthand for boss rush mode, taken from the term running the gauntlet, and that's exactly what we get. The bat signal is ignited, and Commissioner Gordon tells us something terrible has happened. The Joker has escaped Arkham Asylum, which is strange given he escaped our encounter. Well, escaped or died, a real DB Cooper paradigm. Anyway, he has freed the Rogues Gallery, and they are waiting at the warehouse, and with Batman unable to stay away from an obvious trap, it's time to run the gauntlet. It's the typical boss rush fare. Using the techniques we have learnt from previous encounters, we make short work of the Penguin and the Scarecrow, the easiest bosses we have faced. I thought we was just going to face the bosses from the previous levels, but what's this? Clayface? Interesting, the game is mixing it up. Nice. Clayface isn't hard, his pattern is predictable, but as easy as the first 3 fights have been, the game is running on true boss rush rules, fighting battles back to back with no health, so every hit taken counts. Okay, we are shown some mercy, and the game gives us 1 health heart, but that's all you're getting for 6 boss fights. Just to rub some salt in the wound, the game has 1 more grapple section as the last fuck you from this terrible mechanic, leading to the second Catwoman meeting. By now, I had the jump kick technique down pat, as good as stun locking her. Next, we get another new fight, Man-Bat. Man-Bat? These names are getting really meta. This fight uses some great Mode 7 effects, and seems difficult at first, but after learning the attack pattern, Man-Bat goes down, albeit after inflicting damage, leaving us disadvantaged for the final battle. Yep, of course the Joker is the final boss, and this time the poor bastard brought a jetpack to a bat kick fight. The Joker fight suffers from the same downfall of most of the boss battles in this game. They are far too formulaic, with the attack pattern being far too easy to decipher, leading to overall disappointing boss battles. After simply timing the jump kick, the Joker's jetpack blows up, leaving him to revert to his first fight attack pattern, and with the Batarang stun locking him, the Battle of the Colossuses comes to an end, and the final stage has been cleared. Alfred gets a final jab for playing on the normal difficulty. Alfred the Crumpets! Fuck! And roll credits. Well, after all that, Batman has prevailed. The supervillains are safely contained within the walls of Arkham Asylum, and the citizens of Gotham can sleep easy once again, knowing their vigilante of the night will watch over them. So, with all that being said, let's rank it. As always, I'm wary of giving a perfect score for anything, because that is me stating, this is the best quality possible, the upper echelon of graphical performance, and although I truly believe no matter what, there is always room for improvement, the adventures of Batman and Robin really does get the best out of the SNES, while staying remarkably faithful to the source material. Of course, in retrospect, improvements can always be made, but I feel Konami graphically made the best game they could at the time. The mechanics is a mixed bag. While the design and controls are truly remarkable in places, when it's bad, it's really bad, citing the grapple gun and run-ending slowdowns. The good by far outweighs the bad, but this does bring the score down. A truly excellent soundtrack, taking advantage of the Sony SMP sound chip. It's not perfect though, and while the 16-bit rendition of Danny Elfman's Batman theme is truly exceptional, and the in-game arrangements are fitting, there is certainly room for improvement. especially in the areas of tempo and more diverse dynamics. Some tweaking could have made it much more in line with the source material. The gameplay is very fun up to a point. For me, the good levels are great, but the frustrating stages can eat a bag of dicks. I do take into consideration that the developers were somewhat hamstrung by the Batman license though. Overall, the gameplay is very fun and thoroughly enjoyable. This is a tricky section, heavily influenced by region. On a pure gameplay level, this is very palatable in the current day, especially with 2D side-scrollers seeing a resurgence in recent years. But if you live in PAL regions, this is not an accessible game. For those of you living in the NTSC region, this is a title well worth your time. The Adventures of Batman and Robin receives a surprisingly high score of 81%, putting it in the same bracket as all-time classics Sonic and Super Mario 64. Well, what a pleasant surprise. The Adventures of Batman and Robin was a superb mix of great visuals and fun gameplay, all in the excellent style of the animated series. This is the kind of game I was hoping to discover when starting the series. Great games I would never get around to playing without a reason. As I said, I'm not breaking new ground here. This is a well-known good game. But with decades of great games available to play, it becomes increasingly difficult to pick any. It's a downfall of modern-day excessive choice, and I hate to get pseudo-intellectual, but this is summarised best by philosopher Barry Schwartz in his book The Paradox of Choice. Learning to choose is hard, learning to choose well is harder, and learning to choose in a world of unlimited possibilities is harder still, perhaps too hard. So, if I can do one thing to help you overcome this paradox, The Adventures of Batman and Robin is a great option for a weekend evening game night. Now, getting a copy of this game is a different matter entirely. Outside the US, buying a copy will cost you an arm and a leg. It compounds the pitfalls of Nintendo's terrible PAL consoles out the box. Most motherboard revisions using RGB will only display in black and white. This is a situation not unlike Snowball Kids. With no modern release, playing legally on real hardware is overly difficult and unreasonably expensive. There are some other routes, of course, so it really does come down to personal choice. Overall, this is a game I would definitely pick up again, with the same going for the Megadrive version, and I highly recommend it. One of the most important aspects of The Adventures of Batman and Robin is it doesn't stand on the shoulders of the animated series, instead standing on its own 2 feet as a masterclass of IP tie-in game creation. Well, that's my retrospective of The Adventures of Batman and Robin. I hope you enjoyed it. I currently have the next few episodes of How Good Was It in the works, but feel free to leave suggestions in the comments. And join me next time as I celebrate the entering of a certain beloved character into the realms of public domain by retrospectively looking back at one of his best licensed video games. So, until then, thank you for watching, be good, stay safe, and I will see you next time.